2020. Hello and welcome to TBGS Podcast, episode 21. In the studio today, I have with me my son, James.
Hello.
There he is. And as usual, we're going to talk to you about games. That's what we do.
And all the games we've been playing.
Yes. And in our last podcast, we spoke about the fact that we were going to be playing Eclipse.
Second Dawn for the Galaxy.
That one. And we don't have that game, but some friends were coming for the weekend and they were bringing it, and we were very excited about it. And I have to say, I wasn't disappointed. I really enjoyed the game.
I was actually going into it a little bit hesitant because it was one that caught our eye a long time ago. But we veered away from it because it's a 4X game, which stands for Explore, Expand, Exploit, and Exterminate. And we weren't too comfortable or sure about the exterminate part of that quadrilogy.
And then we watched some videos and we learned how you can avoid the extermination part if you want to.
Run away from everyone else in the galaxy if you want. Just go hide in your own corner.
Which is precisely what I did while other people battled it out, which was quite interesting, actually, because if they wanted to battle it out, they could. And if you didn't want to, you didn't have to. That was quite an interesting aspect of the game.
Yeah, fortunately, we were playing with players who respected our pacificity.
And I really like themed games, and this one's theme is all about space, and it was the galaxy, actually, obviously, and it was wonderful. The theme came through very strongly, and I loved that part of it.
Yeah, and we played the introductory version, where basically each player's got their own faction board, and the introductory game, you're all just playing humans. And on the backside of all the player boards is an alien race version that gives each player a different starting setup and everything. So it can be even more thematic and immersive than I think what we experienced.
Yeah, and even so, what I experienced, I enjoyed the theme. In actual fact, I am very strongly theme-based when it comes to playing board games. That's something we've been chatting about recently, is how some people really like the theme, and other people just are not interested. They toss it aside as fast as they can. They actually don't want to read about the theme. Meantime, both of us enjoy the theme. Hey, we kind of get lost in the theme. Well, specifically you
you get very lost in the theme. I enjoy theme. I think I need theme to be there to draw me in and keep me interested.
But what do you get lost in?
But I get lost in rules and mechanisms and systems and efficiency engines. And
a little while ago, I said to Jamie, you're the rules guy. And he said, but I don't want to be the rules guy. Well, you are. And let me tell you, every board game that we own, the first thing that Jamie grabs a hold of is the rule book. And off he goes with the rule book. And he reads it cover to cover. And I don't think I've ever read one single rule book in your adult life. In your childhood, obviously, I had to read the rules and figure out how do we play this game. But I'm quite happy for you to take on the rules book mission. Especially
now that the rule books are turning into little novellas, basically, with the amount of pages they have sometimes.
But you enjoyed that, hey?
Oh, yeah.
I
enjoyed diving in and picking it all apart and figuring it out. And even if there's a good tutorial video out there, I'll typically watch the tutorial video, but after I've read the rulebook for myself to digest and internalize all the information.
And we were playing a game the one time, and Jamie was, getting particular about the rules. And I said, come on, Jamie, let's just have fun. And he said, but I am having fun. And I realized actually my measure of what having fun is extremely different to your measure of having fun. And that's because you actually have fun reading the rules. You actually enjoy immersing yourself in the rules, and you have huge respect and regard for the designers and the developers, and that's what I found.
Yeah, basically, I despise house rules.
You do.
Because I have tremendous respect for the amount of time and process and effort that's gone into, the designers sweated over the rules and figured it out, and they've play tested it, and it's gone through developers and editors, and so it's like, once it gets to a point of the published game, unless they state in the rulebook, like they do in RPGs and things, you know. Like an RPG rulebook will typically say, this is just a guideline, do with it what you will. You
Make
know?
up your own rules as you want.
Yeah. You know, use these rules as much or as little as you want in your game. But unless the rulebook tells me that, I'm not going to do that. Because
I know.
I want to have fun the way the designer thinks you should be having fun. And if that's not fun for me, well, then that's not the game for me. That's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, so as you can hear, Jamie gets fun from enjoying the rules as the rules are meant to be and as they are written.
Playing the game right.
And I get fun from actually house ruling it. You know, you can tell that doesn't wash too well with Jamie. So we found a middle road. And in actual fact, we've got some nice filler games that we use as our fun elements where, you know, we can really not focus too much on the rules. And we can just let it be whatever it's going to be. And that brings me to talking about our hilarious game of Menara. But even that... Menara. Even,
not Banara.
Even that, you will insist that the rules must be followed. Yes, of course.
There's a rule book for a reason.
But you know what happened is we played Eclipse, and after... What's the full title of Eclipse?
Second Dawn for the Galaxy.
That one. After that, we thought, okay, that was 3 hours. So now let's play. Was it 3 hours?
Yeah, thereabouts.
About that. Let's play a light game. So out came Menara. And Menara, in case you don't know, is a dexterity game.
A cooperative dexterity game.
Yes. And you're basically just trying to build this tower. That's the short version.
I have a video for it on the channel if you would like to see the full version.
It's showing them how it's played.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's on your That Board Game Show YouTube channel. Fantastic. Anyway, we're going to play this game after our Eclipse game. And one of the guys at the table was laughing about something. And I said to him, don't laugh, because he was... The air coming out of him with his laughing was actually causing a little shake on the tower, and I didn't want it to collapse. So he closed his mouth and he was trying to swallow his laugh, and he was going red in the face. I tell you what,
And wheezing and squeaking and
it
trying not to
was
shake the table. And
absolutely hysterical. There's twice this year that I can think of times when I was laughing so much that we couldn't actually continue the game. My back was aching, my sides were aching from laughter. I mean, and people say board games aren't necessarily always fun. And so I'm telling you this because you know who was also just about falling off his chair laughing? And that was Jamie, the rules guy. It was really, really hysterical. We'll never forget it. What a memory. And poor Han, he was just about splitting his sides, trying to keep himself...
trying not to laugh.
Trying not to laugh. And the sound effects.
Making more noise not laughing than he would have if he was just...
Yeah. Anyway, it was really, really funny. And we so enjoyed this game. And then we decided to play it again and again because we just had so much fun.
I think we played it like 3 or 4 times in a row.
It was nice because it was just a quick, light game. And everybody was involved. And
yeah, basically what you're supposed to do is it's got these like little cylindrical wooden pillars.
they're nice.
And then you're building up. You've got cardboard...
Shapes.
Very abstract shaped cardboard pieces, which are the different floors of the temple, and you're building up the cylinders, and then you're laying these cardboard pieces on top, and then building up the different layers. And so it gets more and more and more precarious as you go up, and sometimes you have these layers where it's balancing on like 2 little pillars, and you just need to look at it, and it starts quivering.
And it didn't help that we had a square plastic table. It's a nice, robust one, but it wasn't a solid
Not robust
wooden,
enough.
Yeah, it wasn't a solid wooden table. So it was a little jiggly if you like lean on it or something or move. So yeah, but those components were really nice, those wooden pillars. But you know, people can watch the video if they want to know more about it. So something else we've been doing recently, which we haven't done in all the years we've had games, board games, is measuring the difficulty of the game. You know, on BGG it gives you a measurement of the weight.
Weight rating, yeah, from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Or 0 to 5, I think. or 1 to 5, somewhere thereabouts.
And it was really interesting because we decided, you know what, we quite enjoyed the slightly heavier game now. I suppose that's just because that's what happens with the hobby when you just get deeper and deeper. And so we have been playing heavier and heavier games, but we discovered that we didn't have that many. So we went and had a look at our...
That many heavy games.
Heavy games, yeah. And we don't mean the weight of the game in the box. We're talking about difficulty measurements here. And that's been an interesting journey we've been on because we went to look at all of our game library. We looked at it to see what do we have the most of. And we found we had quite a few lighter games than we realized. So we've got light and medium light and medium.
Yeah, lots in the sort of medium light range, a few medium heavy. And all of this is based on Board Game Geek's rating system of how they decide the weight of a game based on people's votes. So it's all a little bit loose.
It is, but according to us as well. Yeah. Like if we go to play a game, we go, well, that's medium to us. Yeah. And to somebody else who's not in the game, I mean, in this hobby yet, it might be really heavy to them. So you can't really get a measure from, it is more a broad spectrum measure. So
I do think the Board Game Geek weight measure skews a little bit heavier because it's been predominantly voted on by gamers. Right. It's not really more casual gamers are not necessarily logging into Board Game Geek and creating an account and giving a rating to a game.
Interesting point, actually. So one has to think about that. Who's actually putting in those ratings?
Yeah.
What kind of people? And
it's all user-based.
Yeah, it's going to be gamers. It's not it's going to be people who play tabletop games. Yeah. Anyway, in our instance, we looked at our own ratings and decided, is this difficult? Is it really difficult? Medium, whatever. And what we might have rated heavy a year ago, we're rating medium heavy now. Yeah.
So I think we're finding ourselves in that group that is skewing heavier.
And fortunately, we found that we had very few heavy games. Because that's wonderful, because that now gives us reason.
Now we have an excuse to buy more games.
Yeah, we have to.
Well, we wouldn't have a balanced collection if we didn't. So
no, I mean, we just have to.
Have no choice.
What can you do? I mean, if you've only got a couple of heavy games, you've got to fix that. Yeah. So anyway, we are now on the hunt for heavier games.
And we've dived off the deep end by hunting down Vital Lacerda games, which is...
Thank you, Vital Lacerda. We
perhaps going in a bit too far off the deep end, but we'll see.
We're going to try and play a couple of his games, and we haven't played one yet, have we?
Not yet.
Not yet.
They're still on the radar.
You see, now I had to check with Jamie on that because I really can't keep all the information of all the different publishers and designers and artists and blah, blah, blah. He's not all that information in his head, so it's quite convenient. My walking encyclopedia on games. In-house. My in-house informer. So that is our next mission. So that's what we will clearly be talking about in podcasts coming up, is our experience of what we, in our current season of the hobby, are calling heavier games.
Yeah. According to Board Game Geek, our heaviest game in the collection currently is First Martians, which I think we've spoken about on the podcast before. But
I'm not sure, but all I can say...
in case we haven't, it's a cooperative adventure survival type game. It's based off of Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island.
Same publisher.
Same publisher, same designer. So it's Ignacy Trzewiczek taking Robinson Crusoe and putting it in space.
Thank you, Ignacy.
And making it a lot more complicated.
And I loved it. I tell you what, you know when you have one of those games that when you're in bed at night, you're thinking about it. And when you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it and you think, oh my goodness, I'm definitely a tabletop game hobbyist. But that is one of those games. That game. The First Martians. Is it First Martians or The First Martians?
First Martians, Adventures on the Red Planet.
Okay.
Instead of Adventures on the Cursed Island.
Okay. Adventures on the Red Planet. That one, without a doubt, kept on calling me back. And its campaign as well.
Yeah. In fact, it's got 3 modes of play. So it's got a campaign, which we've played all the way through. It has standalone scenarios, just like in Robinson Crusoe. So just you can pull out a single scenario and it'll be something like, you have to first arrival or something, and you have to build up your hab and go out and put all the pieces together and get your oxygenator working and get your rec room put together and make sure you've got your farm built up and all this kind of stuff. Or you can play the campaign where each scenario builds into the next, which is driven by an app. And then there's a legacy campaign as well, which we haven't yet played.
So we've got that to look forward to. So to continue on the theme of heavier games, I wanted to talk today about ISS Vanguard. Now, you've done a box organizing video on that, and you've also done...
Which is only coming out, depending when you listen to this podcast. In November 2023. So if you're listening to this in the future, it's out already. If you're listening to this when it goes live, then it's coming soon.
You basically completed the video of ISS Vanguard's box organizing
so
video.
I filmed myself organizing the game because there's a whole 5-6 pages of the rulebook dedicated to this is how you put everything in the box so that it's ready to play, because it's this sprawling campaign story.
And then the next thing is that it says in the rulebook, I've heard from Jamie, is that it is advisable when you're going to play ISS Vanguard to do the tutorial, and the person who's going to be the game master, if we can call it, should do the tutorial so that he can have it all sorted. So when we go to play, then he's got a good understanding. And of course, Rules Guy will do that willingly, not me so much. But what I do willingly is I proof the videos. So Jamie's finished filming the tutorial, which was long, and now I'm going to proof it, which I'm really looking forward to. But this we haven't done yet. This is something in the future. And I'm going to proof it, watching the video, seeing if there's any things that need editing, give my feedback, and then Jamie does the final, and then he uploads it. And so you're going to have the ISS Vanguard tutorial on your YouTube channel.
Hopefully in also November 2023.
What else are we going to do in November? We're going to play ISS Vanguard. I haven't played it yet. Jamie's done the box organizing. He's
played
done
the tutorial twice.
He's done the
I played
tutorial.
it once and then I played it again while filming it. So
he played it, and then he thought this would be good to film, and then you'd filmed it, which you haven't finished editing. So I'm going to be watching that tutorial for the first time, and that's going to be my first taste into ISS Vanguard. That's the plan coming up tomorrow, actually, if all goes well. And I will be letting you know in the next podcast. I'll be talking about my experience. Not next, I don't know when, but sometime in the future.
A future podcast, So we might not have played it by the next podcast.
Maybe not. But I am looking forward to it. And something else I wanted to say about committing to play is we have found that works for us, haven't we? Where we say, okay, this is a big commitment, and we actually block time for it.
Well, that's basically how we got through every single pandemic legacy game.
We waited for our season.
Pretty much just set it up on the table and just kept on playing until it was done.
And when the organization that we run closes between Christmas and New Year, we said, okay, right, pandemic legacy time. And that's what we did between Christmas and New Year. So we're doing the same with ISS Vanguard. We're blocking a few days off just to play this game. At this time, I'm thinking that ISS Vanguard will be creeping into the more heavy side of gaming with regard to our experience. Maybe not. Maybe it's easy for others. Maybe it's medium. Maybe it's even light. Who knows? I'm looking at it as though it's a heavier game. That's what it looks like to me after watching the box organizing and everything. I wouldn't call this by any means light, not at all, and possibly medium heavy, but maybe even heavy. What do you think, Jamie? Is it a heavy game? You've done the tutorial. In your current position of where you're at in the hobby?
I would rank it as medium heavy to heavy. It balances quite well because basically it's a fully cooperative. I think it plays 1 to 4. Yeah, 1 to 4 players. So it's fully cooperative. So that tends to help make a otherwise very heavy game feel a bit lighter because you can spread the load. There's a fair amount of rules, but it's also, yeah, I suppose if you rate heaviness based purely on rulebook thickness, then it's a heavy game.
Oh,
but
yeah, 'cause there's a lot to get through there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of rules, but the way it's presented is quite approachable because of it being a story campaign type of thing. You're being introduced to rules. You're learning stuff. You're figuring it out as you go. When you encounter something, you learn about the thing that you're encountering. You have an app that is walking you through it to a certain extent.
So there's a lot of help within the game.
Yeah, so it holds your hand pretty well.
It's not leaving you to figure it all out and melt your brain, like people say. I can't play that game, it melts my brain. I've got a couple of games I could refer to in that regard. But
according to Board Game Geek, it is a 3.64 complexity rating.
Which puts us into?
Which puts us in medium heavy.
Medium heavy, okay.
Yeah.
And while you're going there, as I said, he seldom goes there, but he is at the moment because once before when I asked you who designed and who are the designers and publishers for ISS Vanguard.
It's published by Awaken Realms and designed by, I will put a link in the description of this podcast for the Board Game Geek link because it's designed by 4 Polish names that I cannot pronounce.
Not at all.
No.
Okay. I thought maybe he would.
Not from the spelling.
You've been a narrator. You tend to be able to get your tongue around these things.
For the video,
yeah.
And I have no guide whatsoever. I tried looking up. I could find like one or two of their surname or something online, but a lot of them were very robotic AI type pronunciations.
So you see what's interesting
and if
is
you
the spelling. Yeah, the
Polish
spelling
names.
Yeah,
they just don't translate to English because if you look at
Ignacy, for example.
Ignacy Cevicek. Go look up Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island, and look at the name of the designer, Ignacy Cevicek.
Yeah.
And you will never believe that you pronounce that name spelt that way as Cevicek.
Unless you're Polish, of course.
Unless you're Polish or Slavic or
something, yeah.
Ukrainian, Polish, somewhere in that part of the world.
Because it just doesn't look like that.
It just doesn't translate to a native English speaker.
So you can't give the designers of ISS Vanguard a go at saying their names because you're probably just going to
can try, but it
make
might
a terrible
just
mess
make
of
for
it.
some comedy if they've got a good sense of humor.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
So we've got Andrzej Beczewicz,
okay,
Krzysztof Piskorski,
okay,
Paweł Samborski, and Martians Virkot.
Okay, I got an idea.
Or something to that effect.
Let's
first one is, oh my goodness.
Let's ask them. Let's ask them to tell us how they pronounce their name, and they can maybe send us a little pronunciation clip.
Of each designer introducing themselves and saying, this is how you say my name.
And we would really like you to tell us how you say your name because we really value all the time and effort put into it. And if you're going to do another video, or you are doing a video and you have done some videos, it'd be nice to be able to acknowledge them by pronouncing their names properly.
Well, I acknowledge them by putting their names at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is it. I am, as always, ready for a cup of tea. So I'm going to go and put the kettle on. And I'm going to say cheerio for now. And I'm looking forward to sharing again about our experience of ISS Vanguard. I am so looking forward to it. Let me tell you, I've had to really exercise patience and discipline because we got the game and you've been busy with it, with all these things we've chatted about. And I've
also
been waiting.
We've been waiting for the right time to dive in because once we dive in, we want to just keep going with it.
That's why we're going to block.
Play a bit here and a bit there. We want to
commit.
Yeah.
And we're not doing anything else but ISS Vanguard until we have got through the first, campaign? Did you say there's campaigns in this game?
I think it's one big campaign, so there's no ways we're going to play the whole thing in one sitting,
okay.
If that's what you're thinking.
Right.
From reviews and things I've watched, it's like a 40, 50, 60-hour campaign for the whole thing. So I think, again, this is going off reading the rulebook and the tutorial and all of that, but as far as I have seen, beyond the tutorial, you've got the main campaign, which is pretty expansive and kind of got like semi-choose-your-own-adventure elements whereby you can go off on different paths that... So it's not like a fixed narrative that you're necessarily going to play out. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. But then I do know that they've also got a version of it where you can play... I forget what they're called. They're like standalone missions.
Okay.
So you can, instead of just playing the campaign, you've got these little one-shot missions that you can do where you can go and just do a single session and it doesn't have bearing on your overarching campaign.
Well, all of this that I'm listening to is unknown to me at the moment, but I'm going to be well informed after I've watched the tutorial, which I plan on doing very shortly, as I mentioned, tomorrow. And you know what I'm also thinking, considering what you've just said, I'm going to start thinking of the catering plan for ISS Vanguard, because I like thinking about the different snacks when it comes to games. Some people don't think about snacks, but I do. And I always think about snacks that are not messy snacks or greasy on the fingers. And that. So we've come up with quite a few nice ideas. In fact, at our last board game weekend, we took out the chopsticks and we were using the chopsticks to pick out the chips out the bowl. And we actually picked up that idea from, was it Paula?
Yeah. Things Get Dicey YouTube channel.
Yeah, we watched her doing it at the one time on one
As
of
a
her
joke.
videos. As a joke. And
then we thought, hey, that's actually a good idea.
So now that's what we do. We snack with chopsticks during our game. Doesn't stop some of the crumbs falling on the table where they don't belong. But anyway, I'm going to go put the kettle on and I'm going to be thinking about the catering plan for ISS Vanguard. You know what I'm thinking, actually? I'm thinking of making it really fun. Doing space-themed. Space-themed snacks. I mean, that's crazy.
Some freeze-dried NASA rations or something.
You see, I can still have fun, even though you're all grown-up man now, and I can't do parties anymore with theme-based parties. I mean, I'm now doing theme-based food for playing board games. Yeah.
It's just a different kind of party.
Just a different kind of party. And one that where we can think of different snacks for the different games. And I can tell people about it in the podcast for those few that might be interested in knowing what snacks we eat while we're playing our games. Who knows? Maybe they can tell us. Can they put comments on podcasts?
This does go on the YouTube video, so you can comment in the YouTube comments. On the podcast, I'm not sure how all the different platforms work.
Well, if it's on YouTube and if somebody listens to this there, I would like to hear from somebody if the topic of snacks while playing board games is of any interest to anybody. I would like to know. That would be interesting.
I'm sure it'll be of interest to somebody because we all have to eat. So, and if you're listening to this podcast, presumably you're interested in board games. So the two naturally go together.
Yeah. What, eating and board games? Okay, well, I'm going to go and put that kettle on. It's getting overdue now. Bye.
And if you'd like to see more and learn more about ISS Vanguard, you'll find it on the TBGS YouTube channel in the near future, if you're listening to this podcast in real time, or in the past, in the history, in the search, if you're listening to it from the future. And if you want to be informed when each of our videos goes live, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, do all the things that the YouTube-y algorithm people seem to think are important. And with that, I shall say thank you ever so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show.